You know what? Maybe we should just call it quits. Maybe we're just two completely different people who were never supposed. It was the only thing keeping her upright. He threw up his hands. You see, you never listen to me. You never care about what I need. She shot back. And you think I'm supposed to just read your mind? The words flew faster now. Blame, defensiveness, old resentments dragged into the fight like heavy baggage neither of them knew what to do with. And then came the words that neither could take back. Maybe this just isn't worth it anymore. In that moment, you could feel it. The heartbreaking silence, heavier than all of the shouting that had come before. A desperate hope. Maybe, just maybe, the person standing across from them would still choose to fight for the love they had built. This is the moment where reconnection is either dies or is reborn. You know what? Maybe we should just call it quits. Maybe we're just two completely different people who were never supposed to end up together. She stood there, stunned, clutching the edge of the kitchen counter like it was the only thing that was keeping her upright. He threw up his hands. You never listen to me. You never care about what I need. She immediately shot back. And you think I'm supposed to just read your mind? The words flew faster now. Blame, defensiveness, old resentments dragged into the fight like heavy baggage neither of them knew what to do with. And then came the words that neither could take back. Maybe this just isn't worth it anymore. In that moment, you could feel it. The heartbreaking silence, heavier than all of the shouting that had come before. A desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, the person standing across from them would still choose to fight for the love they had built. This is the moment where real connection either dies or is reborn. We've all been there, haven't we? Times in our relationship where we felt those big emotions, saw no hope for change, and felt like giving up was our only option. Well, welcome to Mars Venus Coaching. I am your gender intelligence coach, Clay Smith. And in today's episode, I'm going to explore the concept of throwing in the towel in a relationship with a significant other. We're going to investigate why couples do this, the negative consequences of choosing to do so, and what we can do instead to preserve our connection. Instead of making permanent decisions based off of those temporary emotions in the heat of the fight, we can stay connected by agreeing that throwing in the towel is not an option. We're going to take the D word off of the table. Instead, I encourage you to utilize productive techniques in those moments that either make or break our commitment. To threaten to throw in the towel in a relationship means that one partner is saying or strongly implying that they are about ready to give up on the relationship altogether. The phrase throw in the towel actually comes from boxing terminology. When a fighter's team sees that fighter can no longer continue, they throw a towel in the ring to initiate a surrender. In a relationship, it's the emotional version of that. Someone is feeling overwhelmed, hopeless, exhausted, or defeated, and they're signaling that they might call it quits. What does it mean what does it sound like to throw in the towel? Here's some common phrases that you might hear when those emotions are high and someone's starting to throw in that towel. Phrases like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Maybe we just want different things. You'll never change. Maybe we should just end this. I think we've grown apart, haven't we? I don't see a future for us. Maybe we'd be better off apart. I don't know how much more of this I can take. Maybe it's time to walk away. Some of these phrases are more subtle, some are more blunt, but all of them signal that someone is emotionally checking out. These hit hard because they're often said impulsively, but come from deep frustration, much like an emotional grenade. This clearly isn't productive. So, why do we do this? We find ourselves or our significant other threatening to throw in the towel. It usually shows that either of you are emotionally exhausted. We feel like we've tried everything and nothing has worked. It shows desperation for change. We're hoping that the threat might spark action in our partner. It shows a loss of hope. We don't see how things could ever get better. It shows a breakdown in communication. We might feel powerless or unheard, so we throw that out there to get the attention. It might feel good in the moment to experience that release of threatening to end the relationship in the heat. You get to sound authoritative, pulling the trump card to reiterate to your partner that enough is enough. It certainly signals that you have something to say and they should listen to you. It's a serious moment, not just about the fight itself, but about the future of the relationship. Now, threatening to throw in the towel can have serious damaging effects, even if said in the heat of the moment, and here's why. Threatening to throw in the towel creates emotional instability. Every time someone threatens to leave, it shakes the foundation of the relationship and of safety and trust. The other partner starts to live in fear. Are they really committed? Will they leave me next time? It just creates this constant feeling of having to walk on eggshells. Threatening to throw in the towel undermines trust. Relationships need the continuity of emotional security to thrive. Threatening to call it quits sends the message that you can't really trust me to stay when things get really hard. Over time, uncertainty chips away at a deeper connection. Threatening to pull the plug turns conflict into power struggles. Instead of resolving those issues together, the fight now then becomes about who's going to leave first or who cares less. It shifts the energy from the problem solving mode into a survival mode and ego battles. Threatening to throw in the towel damages emotional intimacy. Threats make it unsafe to be vulnerable. Partners start hiding their feelings, bottling up resentments, avoiding deeper conversations altogether. All because it's too risky to open up when one person might walk away when the going gets tough. Hard to be physically vulnerable with your partner if you can't be emotionally vulnerable with them because they could walk out at any time. Threatening to pull the plug escalates resentment. Each threat plants a seed of bitterness, the feeling that you don't value me enough to stay. Over time, those seeds grow into full resentment, which is much harder to heal. Threatening to pull the plug trains the relationship to associate conflict with abandonment. Fights and disagreements are normal, but if arguments are tied to threats of leaving, the relationship starts to associate conflict with the fear of breakup. This can lead to unhealthy patterns, conflict avoidance, emotional suppression, or what I call fake harmony, just to avoid that risk of abandonment. Finally, threatening to pull the plug makes breaking up even easier to do. The more you say it, the more you think about it, the more you visualize yourself breaking up with this person, moving out, dividing assets, all of that stuff, it makes it easier to do so. The bottom line is threatening to throw in the towel damages that emotional safety net every deep relationship needs. Even if you don't actually want to leave, the threat alone weakens the relationship and bond over time. Now, research shows that couples often go through an average of 2 to 5 breakup attempts before they actually end the relationship for good. In other words, it's pretty normal for couples to break up and reconcile a few times before making the final decision. Now, some university studies found that 1/3 to about half of couples who break up will get back together at least once, and many of them cycle through this pattern multiple times. Creating a habit of threatening to throw in the towel, even when breaking up temporarily, getting back together, it just takes the weightiness out of your words. It creates a loss of credibility. You threaten to leave or get a hotel room or start thinking about moving out, your partner kind of starts to think, whatever, you say that all the time, but you never actually do it. Even when in the back of their mind, they're thinking, could this be the last straw? In short, threats without action weaken both the relationship and the person making them. Now, it's essential to remember during a fight, we've got to stick with the topic at hand. Whatever that topic that the fight or argument created, that's what needs to get addressed. Why are you taking this to a whole nother level? Why are we increasing the pressure by threatening to throw in the towel? There's no need for that. Sticking to the topic at hand that the argument's about keeps things focused, solvable, and emotionally safe. It says, hey, I'm upset here, but I'm here to work things through with you. It keeps that trust intact even during conflict. But threatening to end the relationship, on the other hand, escalates everything. It shifts the whole argument from solving a specific problem to fighting for the survival of the relationship itself. That makes the other person feel attacked, unsafe, and often hopeless. Because now it's not just about a disagreement, it's about losing everything. Basically, sticking to the topic at hand builds trust, even during the tension. Threatening to throw in the towel on top of the topic breaks trust and creates fear. Okay, so we know what not to do, and that is to make those threats about ending the relationship, letting the temporary emotions create those permanent decisions. But what can we do instead? I want to briefly mention the timeout technique. Go see my other episode on the timeout technique, where we're going to talk further, more in depth about an explanation about the brain chemistry and gender intelligence related to the need to call for a timeout and how to do so. But for now, let's just cover the basics. The timeout technique starts with the awareness that communication is no longer working with your partner. How can you tell? What are some of those indicators that communication isn't getting your point across? Well, perhaps you're not feeling heard. One or both of you are starting to turn up the volume. We're communicating without respect. There's a hint of defensiveness in your tone or your partner's tone, and that's when you know things aren't going to work out. Strong negative emotions are clouding the other person's receptivity to being open and willing to consider your wants and needs centered around that fight. Once these indicators are known, communication has stopped working. And guess what? Stop communicating. Tell your partner it's time to take a break. Here are 4 key phrases that you can utilize in succession to initiate a timeout. Phrase number 1, this is getting too intense for me. I need to take a break. I'm going to go, go for a drive in my car, run some errands, take a hot shower, go for a walk, work out in the garden, tinker with something in the garage. Let's pick this up at another time. Perhaps tomorrow night after getting the kids down, perhaps during our next relationship check in, maybe when we talk about this on our next group coaching call. And once you initiate those four phrases, you've got to leave the room. You got to get out of there, because if you don't, you or your partner are going to want to bring things back up. They're going to bait you back into the ring, getting you guys closer and closer to the threshold of throwing in that towel once and for all. Why is it imperative that we stop communicating when we realize it's no longer working? You see, when we get angry, we're going to say and do things that we end up regretting. When those cortisol levels spike during an argument, our brains shift into a fight or flight mode. At that point, nothing productive is going to happen. Blood rushes away from the part of the brain responsible for reason and empathy, the prefrontal cortex, and it goes straight into survival mode, the so-called reptilian brain. When that happens, we stop responding like partners and start reacting like primates. If your partner emotionally flings a handful of shit your way, a harsh word, a low blow, critical remark, your instinct is to sling something back. It's like two kids in the sandbox, throwing sand in each other's face. Only now, the sandbox is your relationship, and the damage isn't temporary. So, what if you can't escape? Let's say you're just having a great conversation. Defensiveness creeps in, and it turns to blame, criticism, judgment. Now we're bringing up the past. Before you know it, your connection's lost and a full-blown argument has emerged. You recognize those signs, realize it's time to call for a timeout. You do so only to realize you're stuck in the car, out in public, and can't just easily retreat to save the relationship. What do? That's where the broken record technique comes into play. Recognizing that nothing productive is going to come out of an argument or a fight. Experiencing your partner trying to bait you back in. Repeat your need to take a break. Utilize those four key phrases over and over again until they get the point across. Stand your ground. Don't take the bait. Instead, if they keep pushing your buttons, just reiterate it. This is getting a little intense for me. I need to take a break. Can we talk about this tomorrow night? Even if they say, oh yeah, you just want to walk away, don't you? Here we go again, running away from the problem. What is this, your way of copping out? Repeat the timeout phrases until they get the point across. The only way to win in this scenario is to choose not to play. But what if you still want to end things? As you progress in the relationship, you may decide you two are just no longer a good fit. Perhaps you feel disconnected beyond repair, exhausted by the constant conflict, or betrayed by an affair. It's okay to end relationships, but do so from a place of clarity. Again, don't let those temporary emotions be the reason that you end the relationship. Because when you do, once those emotions die down, you begin second guessing your decisions. And that's why people make up and break up 2 to 3 times before finally calling it quits. Now, if you're feeling unsure about whether to stay or to leave, I invite you to book a complimentary call with me. Together, we can walk through some of those emotions, through the decisions, whether to stay or to go, from a place of higher consciousness, grounded in true values, and not just those intense emotions of the moment. So at the end of the day, relationships aren't about winning the argument. They're about winning each other's hearts over and over again. Throwing in the towel might feel like that release in the moment, but over time, it drains trust, safety, and connection, the very lifeblood of love. Conflict is inevitable, but what defines a lasting relationship isn't whether or not you fight, it's how you fight. It's remembering that even when those emotions are high, our commitment is higher. It's having the courage to take that time out, protect the bond, revisit the conversation with clarity at a different time instead of the chaos. So I encourage you, the next time that heat rises and you're tempted to throw in that towel, pause, breathe, take a step back. Fight for your connection, not against each other. You see, love isn't lost in those big moments. It's lost in the little choices that we make when it's harder to stay. And again, if you're standing in that crossroads, unsure whether to stay or go, don't walk that path alone. Click that link to get some clarity, book that complimentary call so we can sort through the noise together. That way you can move from a place of true alignment with your highest values and not just those emotions caught in the moment. So I highly recommend you apply this insight in your relationship with your significant other. If you receive value from this video, I would appreciate you clicking that like button. Also, don't miss out on practical tools to strengthen your relationship. Subscribe now. Let's grow your connection one video at a time. And hey, if you've been implementing this relationship tool with your partner, I would love to hear about your experiences in the comment section below. Let's stay connected. Even when it's hard, even when it hurts, because real love isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about fighting for each other.